In 1990, Die Hard 2 brought John McClane back into action, this time battling terrorists at Washington Dulles International Airport on Christmas Eve. The film introduces the elite Blue Light Special Forces Unit, a fictional spin on a real-life counterterrorism team. Blue Light wears a pretty typical uniform of the day for a standard soldier in the U.S. Army, though probably not exactly accurate for a counterterrorism team. I figured it was worth the time to take a look at, and the setup of the gear is pretty interesting. The snow gear with ski masks is a pretty iconic look. This is the part we will be focusing on today, so join me as we take a look at Die Hard 2 on Studio Surplus. Hello and Merry Christmas. I'm Jake, and today we're taking a look at the film Die Hard 2: Die Harder. The second film in the Die Hard franchise, Die Hard 2 continues the story of John McClane and his tendency to be the wrong guy in the wrong place at the wrong time. And of course, this movie takes place during Christmas time, just like the first film. Can you even consider this a Christmas movie? I'll leave that one up to you guys in the comments. This time around, the problem merits intervention by the counterterrorism group Blue Light. So for today's episode, I want to take a look at the uniforms that Colonel Grant and his men are wearing. I'm only going to focus on the military surplus here. There are some other things in the film that I could probably cover, but that is just outside of what I know, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, so we're going to kind of keep it simple here. Before we get into the rest of the video, a little history lesson on Blue Light. The unit in the movie seems to be a reference to the real-life unit that was organized under the 5th Special Forces Group in the mid-1970s. Blue Light was established to fill the gap while Delta Force was undergoing its training and certification. Once Delta Force was certified, Blue Light was stood down and was not needed anymore. So by the time this movie takes place, Blue Light would not have been an active unit in the Army. However, I think this is a pretty cool detail and a great nod to Blue Light, which is an important piece of Special Forces history. So let's start by examining the uniforms and equipment used by the men of Blue Light when they first arrive. Okay, so starting off with headgear for Blue Light as they're moving about the airport and, when they first arrive. They're wearing the kind of standard black USGI beret of the era. There's not much more to it than that. There's no shield flash or anything. It's just a fictionalized Blue Light patch on the beret, and that's basically it. There's not much more than that to the beret. It's pretty standard. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of berets personally. Sometimes they look good and it's cool, and then other times they just look like a chef's hat. So it's kind of, I don't know, up in the air for me. But we'll move on to the uniforms next. All right, so moving on to uniforms. I modeled Manny specifically after Colonel Grant, but this kind of generally applies to all the guys in Blue Light. And they all, or for the most part, all seem to be wearing M65 field jackets. Now, Colonel Grant takes it off. Talford, the radio guy, or the commos guy, he takes his off. But for the most part, most of them are wearing their M65s the entire time. And then with Colonel Grant specifically, because you see him with his jacket off, he seems to be wearing first pattern BDUs. Now, you can tell it's a first pattern based on the collar is the biggest giveaway. And they call this the Elvis collar. It's a very wide collar compared to the second pattern of BDU. And that just seems to be what he's wearing. You can't really tell with most of his guys, though, because they are, for the most part, just wearing their M65s, and they're usually zipped up pretty tight. And so they could be wearing second pattern, could be first pattern, could be, a combination of the both. So I'm not really sure 100%, but that's pretty much the uniform's pretty standard for the day, but battle dress uniform, pretty standard. Nothing too crazy here. But okay, so moving on to field gear. The belt is pretty standard. It's an LC2 with the quick release buckle. Nothing too crazy there. It seems like they all have the LC2. By this point, the LC2 would have been, with that quick release buckle, would have been kind of the standard. It would have taken over. There would have been a few metal buckles kind of floating around out there, but not as common as like the mid-80s. And on his right side, he has the UM84 or M12 pistol holster. By this point, this is also pretty standard for the Army. It would have been in flux of replacing the earlier M1916 style of holster for a while by that point, but mid-80s. So by 1990, yeah, that would have been your standard holster. Now, this is the first of two major caveats with the gear that I wasn't able to cover 100%. On this side, I have a compass pouch. Now, in the movie, they're not really wearing compass pouches. They're actually wearing the pouch, the magazine pouch that goes with the holster. I wasn't able to get my hands on one. They go for way too much money, either new or used. And I frankly wasn't going to spend that kind of money on one pouch, one small pouch. It's about the size of the compass pouch, which is why I used the compass pouch kind of as a stand-in. So I apologize that I wasn't able to get that. It is that pouch. It is the holster pouch, magazine pouch that goes with the holster. But I just wanted to point that out. So I'm using that as a stand-in. I don't like doing that too often, but I don't also want to spend the kind of money that people want for those, for a single small pouch. It's just kind of ridiculous. Now, second caveat is with the back is that I'm not actually sure what is on this side on most of the guys. My guess has been that it's a rifle cleaning kit. A few of them, it appears to be something else because I can see that there's a snap up here. And the snaps on the rifle cleaning kit are on the back side because that's where the slide keeper is. So I don't think that's what it is for at least two of the guys, but the rest of them, including Colonel Grant, I think are wearing M16 rifle cleaning kits. So again, I apologize I couldn't get that exactly. It's one of those things where I stared at the screen enough, and with the fidelity of the movie and the darkness, because most of the movie is shot kind of in dark settings, you don't really get a good look at the back of their gear long enough in enough light to make that determination. And the only other thing that they're wearing on their gear is, for some reason, they decided that they're going to put the M16 magazine pouch, the Alice magazine pouch, on the back of the belt in a very kind of awkward place where it'd be kind of difficult to get access to. But that's just a choice they made. All the guys, for the most part, have it in that specific spot. Kind of weird. I don't know why they did that, but that's the decision that they made. And that's pretty much the web gear. There's not much more to it. There's no suspenders. They're just wearing it as a battle belt, and that's about it. Okay, so moving on to boots. This is, again, another movie, and I feel like this is going to be a theme where I'm not going to be able to tell what boots they're wearing. And specifically Colonel Grant, you do get one decent shot of the sole of the boot when he's about to be sucked into the turbine. And I'll throw a screenshot up. That's the only time you really do. And again, it's moving. There's things happening. It's not exactly a steady shot. So even then it's blurry. And I wasn't able to figure it out. I think they might be Canadian, but I'm not going to say for sure, basically. And then the rest of his men, you never really get a close-up shot. I mean, black boots, it's dark in the movie. It doesn't have the finer detail that you need to like identify them. And honestly, black combat boots kind of all look the same. There's only little things that are different that really set them apart. But I couldn't figure it out. So again, I apologize that I'm not able to get some of this stuff. This is one of those movies where it was like, I could get some of the major details, and then some of the finer details are just too difficult to see in the movie. So, okay, so with that being said, that is Blue Light as they are inside the airport. Let's move on over to Ken and what they look like when they're about to assault the old church. Okay, so I have Ken here set up for the church assault, and starting from the top, it's basically just a ski mask. Most of the guys have ditched their berets at this point. Colonel Grant and at least one other guy is still wearing a beret, but the rest of them are wearing ski masks. Now, I don't think there's a USGI white ski mask from that era, so I just went with one off Amazon. It's not exactly one-to-one, but it's pretty close. And on their way to the church assault, they all pull them down, and there you go. Pretty much standard ski mask. Like I said, it's not exactly one-to-one, but it gets the idea across. Okay, so moving over to the uniforms. Kind of already covered what they're wearing. Same thing underneath all of this. First or second pattern BDUs combined with an M65 field jacket. In this case, they're now wearing these snow parka and snow pants. Now, there's not much more to it than that. These are just basically your over uniform to give you camo in a snow environment. It's just an over white, parka and trousers. So there's not much to it, but it looks cool. And with the ski mask, it looks really cool. So just kind of a cool kit. This is actually one of the reasons why I wanted to do this film, was because this is just cool. I mean, you can't really beat it. So that's pretty much the uniform. There's not much more than that. Okay, so moving on to gloves. From what I can tell, they're wearing M1949 leather gloves with liners. They could be other types of, black leather gloves. It's kind of hard to tell in this movie. Everything's dark. So I don't know 100%, but I figured I'd throw it out there that's my guess. And there's not much more I can say to that. So we'll move on to the gear. Okay, so moving on to web gear. Pretty much the same deal as before with the same caveats. I still have a compass pouch on this side, standing in for the mag pouch. Again, I wasn't going to pick that up for that price. This side I did mix it up. I did put a M1916 holster. You see a couple guys with these holsters instead of the M12, and I wanted to make sure I covered it. And then, of course, an LC2 belt with a quick release buckle. And then on the back, once again, you have the one Alice magazine pouch for some reason on the back. Again, I don't know why. And then again, in this case, M16 cleaning kit case. And again, same caveat before, I don't know if that's what was there. Kind of looks right, but there could be other pouches involved. I don't know. But again, that's my best guess, and it kind of at least fits the vibe. So the best I can do on that, and that's what it is. We'll move on to the next bit, and then we'll wrap this video up. And on to boots. Again, as I said earlier when we were looking at Manny, I don't know what they're wearing for boots. And I apologize, but I can't figure it out. I stared at enough pixels to try to figure it out, and I couldn't. So, unfortunately, with most of the movies that we're going to cover, a lot of them I'm not going to be able to tell the boots. Unless they're obvious, like Jungles or something like that, I'm not going to be able to tell which boot they're wearing if I don't get a clear-cut shot of the boots. So it's just something that's going to come up probably frequently. But that's enough about the boots. Let's wrap up this video. So that was Die Hard 2: Die Harder. I really enjoyed the second film, though I still think the first one is the best out of the whole franchise. Tell me what you think of this movie and which one is your favorite. Also drop a comment about what movies you want me to cover in the future. I have a few on my list, and it's all about getting the gear and the equipment to be able to cover them, so no guarantees, but I'm working on it. And I also have some other videos that are in the works, but again, it's all about time and whether or not I can get it done. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.